Welcome everyone to Intelligent Voices Israelites. I am your brother, your friend, Yahuah Yahweh. I come to you before you with my whole heart, as I am with the Father, your Father, our Father. Today, we have a very gracious study today to talk about, which will give more wisdom and knowledge and understanding for more to be shared and spread throughout your understanding. We thank you for being a part of this and catching the stream. For you or those who are part of us already know that the Father is here with us and with you as well. But before we start, let's give everyone an opportunity to get themselves together before we go into this deep study, and grab water and whatever you need. Please take note for all the newbies that are just joining us. We send out our shalom to you with grace and peace. For you have been harvested into this remnant, which is this calling. The time is now to continue to be redeemed by the love of my Father Yahweh. For we are all sons and daughters of this grace that comes with the full gospel of truth, helping you see that the kingdom is at hand. But here it is, we have problems. We have distractions. This world have given many different roles to choose, and giving up the talents that has been given to them. As we will also be seeing and discussing in this segment here on IVI, talking about the history on Jeduthun, which many have never maybe heard of, and how he's tied to David, and how David is tied to him. We will show how many have took the reversal of Hillel's truth, which is called the devil, Satan, and have taken that talent that Father Yahuah have given to the individual to do evil or to be misled out of righteousness of that talent into the ways of displaying more falsehood, to allow others, young and old, to follow the lyrics to a cult lifestyle. Demonic practices are in music, everyone. So you have to be careful to the brothers and sisters that you listen to, right? And that means you have to be careful when you listen to today's prophets, because you have to identify the blessing that has been given or the curse that has been given, right? So today we will be talking about history of Jeduthun. Shalom. Jeduthun. So now, welcome my family tree brothers and sisters. Here's some logic. Members of Yah, I'm your brother, Yahuah Yahweh. Today in your faithful truth, as we begin with who was Jeduthun and what was his relationship to David, right? As many have not talked about him, as this element goes back to our roots. So before we start and get into this lesson, everyone, let's say a prayer as Father will now and will take over. Almighty Father, I thank you for your blessings upon us, keeping us strong in your grace, loving us with patience, allowing us to see the truth, hear the truth, and become again unto the truth. We know that you are alive in every one of us who believes in this truth. We know our brothers and sisters out there seeing the world transform, but understanding, here it is, that this is the time now to act, to make a true decision, May you hear their prayers, Father Yahuah. Covet them back into this grace. Give them ears to hear and spirits to follow, to understand that here it is, you are giving them information of wisdom to take on to themselves, to spread among their families and friends, to allow them to see this grace, that your power is in each and every individual. We love you, Father. We know you love us with all of your heart and compassion and mercy. May you continue to redeem those who hear the truth and continue to stay steadfast in it. With this history that we're going to talk about, Father, may this enlighten the brothers and sisters who it is cause for. May you continue to be a light in each heart and everyone whose home has been protected by your grace. Thank you, Father, for listening and understanding. May you continue. Amen. So now, as we know, brothers and sisters, Jeduthun was a friend to David. Let's pull this up just a bit, guys. Now, as many have not talked about him, right, or had any understanding of him, as the elements go back to our roots as Hebrews, Israelites, it deepens, and here it is, as it goes around Africa and all of Israel. Because here it is, which before it was stated, long before, as I impose, with the exceptions of the implications that our origin in the background in the musical system of Hebrews and the Levites trace back to the Egyptians, as well as the time of Moses. Now understand, we know Moses was around this time and understood, here it is, the laws, and also brought forth these laws. And now we see also, brothers, in the period in time which our Israelites ancestors reside in Goshen, as these Israelites had true musical backgrounds, as it stemmed back to as far as early as King David, who also was a Hebrew Israelite, black or brown. Now understand, brothers and sisters, by wisdom of scripture, it tells us that David was well known as a young musical or musician in his time, as he was often summoned to play before King Saul. His numerous musicals we can view in the truth of the book of 1 Samuel. Now we're going to start getting into the book, because here it is, Jeduthun, you're going to learn the history and the historical truth of this man and his relationship tied to David, which therefore sharpened David's skills, okay? Into therefore what we're going to actually see as we go on in this segment here at IVI. Now, these was my logic notes. Now, as we go into this book, which is the Hebrew Bible, we're going to look at 1 Samuel chapter 16. And when we get to Samuel chapter 16, everyone, I want you to pay close attention to verse 14 through 23. Now, when we get to 14 through 23, we see that David, he wins Saul's approval, okay? Now, this is getting into the history of Jeduthun. So now, Salah. So now here it is. David wins Saul's approval. Now, watch what happens here as we read the scripture and get into this lesson. The Spirit of the Almighty had departed from Saul, and he was tormented by an evil spirit, right? From, here it is, the Almighty. So the servant of Saul said to him, "Look, an evil spirit from Yahuah is tormenting me. Verse 16. If your lordship, or here it is, mastership, will order it, we, your servants here attending to you, will look for a man skilled in playing the harp. See, music was used to soothe the spirit. Now, today, our brothers and sisters, we listen to all kind of music, right? And here it is. Many of them don't know that the industry of the music have now been culted, because now they have therefore summons demons on top of the music to make people therefore more possessed in their ways and following them, right? We see that with many artists. And here it is. I don't need to say any names. But here it is. We are seeing an illustration that music was a way of getting the expression into the individual. Now, as I continue, he says, for a man skilled with playing the harp, when the evil spirit from Yahuah comes upon you, you see that? He will play and you will feel better. Verse 17, Saul then told his servants, find me a good harpist and bring him to me, right? He says in verse 18, one of the servants spoke up, I have observed that a son, here you go, a son of Jesse of Bethlehem is a skillful harpist. Now understand, before King David became king, he was skilled, here it is, well, I would say he was a basic harpist, because as we're going to find out, he becomes very much skilled, right? Now, as we continue here, he is also a brave warrior, an able speaker, and a handsome young man. The Almighty One is certainly with him. Verse 19, accordingly, Saul dispatched messengers, right, to ask Jesse, that was David's dad, to send him his son David, who was with the flock, right? Now in verse 20, then Jesse took 5 loaves of bread, a skin of wine, right, and a young goat, and sent them to Saul with his son David. Verse 21, then David came to Saul, right, and entered his service, right? Saul became very fond of him and made him his armor bearer, right? Verse 22, Saul sent Jesse the message, let David stay in my service. See this? We're getting somewhere here now. Stay with it, everyone. So he says, here it is, for he meets with me my approval. Verse 23, whenever the spirit from Yahuah came up on Saul, David would take the harp and play, and Saul will be relieved and feel better, for the evil spirit will leave him. Now, this is why we're talking about Jeduthun, because many haven't talked or discussed the blessings that here it is that David had besides becoming king. We got to look at the illustrations of how music was used in a way to help people relieve themselves from stress. Now, everyone today have stress, and they're taken in many directions in their stress. But without the proper guidance of control, which is Galatians 5:22 and 24, which is the out of the 9, you must have self-control. But understand one thing, music soothes the spirit, right? And now we understand that David had this in him at the start. Now understand, Saul was wicked. And here it is, David had something to give to Saul, which we just read, that helped humble him again, right? As we see in 1 Samuel chapter 16, 14 through 23. Now follow me. It is reasonable, my brothers and sisters, to conclude that David was intimately, this is logic, here it is, familiar with music and also well trained in it and entered, here it is, workings of music in forms of compositions and lyricals and instrumentals and performance. David had the form of compositions, writings, lyrical, from word, instrumental, and from performance, right? And here it is. We know, my fellow Israelites, that David had many other traits. He was very talented individual in music. So you must be saying, brothers and sisters, right? Are we still talking about learning who Jeduthun was? Jeduthun was. That name stumbles me for some reason. I don't know why. But understand here, Jeduthun was by nature, here it is, and I would say the whole story is better than a half one, right? So question is, how did a young Israelite David, who was a shepherd boy at the time, become one of the most famous musicians and composers of all time? I tell you now, my brothers and sisters, the answer is in association with Jeduthun. Now, as we see Jeduthun come into focus, because we're going to see this later on as we continue to see it in the precepts of the Bible, but I'm reading my logic notes. This association with one of the prominent Levites named Jeduthun. Now, this man was one of the three primary singers, everyone, when you look up this history. And he was a musical director appointed by David to serve along with his Hebrew Israelites, brothers, right, at the tabernacle, also in the tent in Zion, and then later the temple system in musical capacity before Yahweh. Now, when they had the tabernacle, they blew the trumpet, and here it is, the shofar, and here it is, they danced and they sang tamarines. Women used the tamarines to sing to Yahuah, my Father, to let him know how much they love him and appreciate the grace. And here it is, the protection. And here it is, allowing them to be free. Now, music does this. Now, today we see many artists out here, right? We see many illustrations of music out here, right? All forms. But now today you have evil forms of music, right? That is leading people out of their minds, leading young people out of their minds. As you can watch many videos on musicians that is out today, and you'll see that their enticements is to lead their young to hell. So this is what we're getting at today. We're bringing up a man that helped David form himself into more skilled talent, right? Because we done proved that Jeduthun was an instructor and also a master of the craft. So this is what wisdom shows as proof by the scriptures in the way of the Spirit. I reveal the accounts relating to the selection of these three key individuals. I find the following as we see, right? References, as we see here it is, the front notes, which I have wrote down here, 1, 2, and 3. These are references which is going to refer to more understanding of Jeduthun in the relationship that he had with David and to help David. Now, number one, initially marching assemblies used when the ark was relocated to the city of David. Now we know that, right? With Zion, which it was referred to going to Zion, Jerusalem. Because when we look at 1 Chronicles 15, let's go there. We see in chapter 15, 17. Let's get the book over here. here. It's going to take time, y'all. So just bear with me. Books are sticking here. That's happened when you're working in that book there, and here it is. We're going to get there. Right here. Okay. First Chronicles chapter 15. And when we get here, we're looking at 17 and 21, right? Therefore, it says, the Levites appointed Heman. Now, remember I said I'm going to mention 3 people that also was tied to David. And here it is, helping him become more skillful in his playing. We see Heman, son of Joel, and among his brother, Asphalt, son of Berchan, and among the sons of Merari, the brothers, Ethan, son of Cush. Verse 21, and then we see also the gatekeeper, Zechariah. And then we see Uzziah, and then we see a lot of other players here, right? Which I'm not going to read all of those. And then we see Matthidus in verse 21, which I referred to everyone to read the Maccabees. So now as we see this here, this number 2 now in symbol left before the temple where the ark had been relocated in the city of David. Now here it is. This assembly of the ark was being taken to Zion. And here it is. They were playing music as they were going. But now we're seeing all of the people that were composers, that was lyra players, harp players, singers, all here in order. So now we see the relocation took place in First Chronicles chapter 16, which is right downstairs from here. And now we see in verse 4, clearly it says, chapter 16 of First Chronicles, he then appointed certain Levites to minister before the ark of the Almighty. Watch this. To celebrate thanks and to praise the Almighty Yahuah of Israel, right? So now as we see this continue, Asphalt was their chief, and the second to him was Zechariah, Uzziah, and then we see Shemarath, and then Jeel, and Matthidus, Abijah, and all of the names we just read here. And it now tells right here, these were to play on harps and lyras, with Ash was to sound the chamberlain, cymballine, and the priests, here it is, were to be regular trumpeters before the ark of the covenant of Yahuah. So now people use music to express themselves, right? But now we see today music have changed into a curse. But now here it is, we're seeing David was heavily around music, good music, righteous music that was pleasing unto the Father as he blessed and sung towards the ark of the covenant, right? And now here in verse 3 of my logic. And similarly left before the tabernacle of Gibeon, after the ark had been relocated, the city of David, right? Because here it is, we know later on David became king. Now, when we see here in 16 and we go down to verse 39, scroll down to verse 39, you will see here Zadok, right? But the priest Zadok and his priestly brothers had left before the tabernacle. Didn't I just say that? Of the Almighty on the high place of Gibeon. and to make burnt offerings to the Almighty Yahweh on the altar for burnt offerings regularly, morning and evening, right? And to do all that is written in the law of the Almighty, which he commanded Israel, or the Israelites. Verse 41, with them were Heman and Jeduthun, and the others who were chosen and designated by name to give thanks, right? To the Almighty, whose love endures forever. Verse 32, they did this with trumpets, chamberlains for accompanying and instruments for the sacred songs. They sang songs. The sons of Jeduthun kept the gate. Now understand, these were all assignments that were given to the Israelites at this time, which was allowing them to understand that these songs, these things that they were doing, they were given by grace by the Father for them to therefore be able to create, and people were able to sing, play instruments, and they had a good time, a good feeling inside, right? Now, as we see in verse 33, go back up. Then let all the trees of the forest exalt before the Almighty who comes to rule the earth. Most of these instruments were made out of wood, everyone. So now you see that here it is. David and Jedediah had a close relationship working, but here it is. David was a harpist and a shepherd boy before he became king, right? Now here's some logic, because here it is. General selection of Levites were made, here it is, to play musicians, right? And singers, right? Because we see also in 1 Chronicles 25, and when you get here, verse 1, it says the singers. David and the leaders set apart for the service, the sons, here it is, he selected these men, Asphar, Heman, and Jeduthun, who prophesies to the accomplishment of lyres and harps and tambourines. So now this is the list of those who perform this service. And you can see that in verse 2, everyone. So now understand, David had more things that he did before he was king. And we see that the relationship that he had with these men, well, here it is, helping him to become more established in his art as a player of being a musician or artist, I would like to say. So now, as we see this here, here's some logic, my brothers and sisters. This is the full truth of the matter. As we continue the spiritual church of wisdom, it will jumpstart your knowledge, here it is, to understand why it was so important for the lessons to be taught to your hearts. If you look in the Bible at these accounts, I tell you, the first thing you find is that the account was by David leading into this art craft through Jedediah. I have stated, this do not occur in chronological sequence, as I will reveal to you the correct path of vision by the spiritual help of Yahweh. Below are outlines. Here it is in order. It will be, you will write down, everyone, 1 Chronicles chapter 15, which occurs before 1 Chronicles 6. All right. So when you go to 1 Chronicles 15, remember this all occurred before 1 Chronicles chapter 6. Okay. So now I will lead you this wisdom. Third thing you will notice is that when you compare who the three primary singers and musical individuals were, who was mentioned long ago with Heman, as you view in 1 Chronicles 15, what's that? That'll be 15:19. Let's go back. So now when we look at 1 Chronicles 15:19, we see the singers were Heman, Asphur, and Ethan. Now, why I wanted to go back there, everyone, because I took a logic note that here it is. When you see the Ethan, that is Jeduthun. So here it is. Ethan is the same person. So when you see David referring to Ethan, he's really referring back to Jeduthun. So now he says, sound, brass, and here it is, as we see, tamarines or cymbalines. So now here it is, Zechariah, Uzra, and you see all of those singers there. Now, in 1 Chronicles chapter 6, go back here, verse 29, why I'm doing this, I'm getting you to read all of these chapters, but go to these points, because here it is, you're going to find out a lot about this man. Because here, and you got to put some work in too. So yes, your brother Israel Yahuah is giving you a service of class for you to do your legwork on. So now that's why it might seem like here it is, you're being a little confused here and there. But as we continue, you will see that we're still talking about the history of Jeduthun. So now in the relationship David had with him. Now, 1 Chronicles chapter 6, verse 29, when you get there and look, it says, their brothers, Merarites, stood at the left. Ethan, son of Kashai, son of Abadai, son of Melashis. So now we see here it is who was who tied to whose brother and also sibling. Then in also 6:44, when you skim down to verse 44, you see Ashan with its pasture lands. Is that the same? Here it is. Yes. And then we see here it is Jeddah with its pasture lands, and then we see in here it is where they were. And there is more in the sight of Jeduthun in the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 16, everyone. So go with me, bear with me. 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 41. Now, when we get to verse 41, we see right here it says, with them were Heman and Jedediah and others who were chosen and designated by name to give thanks to the Almighty. So these men couldn't just be there. Yah, my father, David, through David, actually put these men together. And here it is, they designed the music, and here it is, people sung to, right? And then he says, who love endures forever. Verse 42, with the trumpets and the cymbalines for accompaniments and instruments for sacred song. The sons of, now remember, Jeduthun is really Ethan. Keep the gate, right? And then we see now, as we went to 1 Chronicles 25:1, we went to 1 Chronicles now 25, verse 3. Flip the page, because we must see this. You must take notes of this, because in 25, verse 3, what do we see? All of Jeduthun, which is Ethan, these sons of Jeduthun, and here it is, you see his sons, Goliath, right? So now, wow, this should start your wheels to turning. Now, you know, here it is, David King killed Goliath, right, with a rock. So now realize now how all of this, what you're taking note to, is going to lead to the information more and more as you get into these books and read all of this, because here it is, it's going to allow you to see the skill that David had. And here it is before he became king, and then therefore why Saul, here it is, wanted David to come and play for him, right, to relieve his stress, because here it is, he was stressed out. At that time, there was a lot of wars and battles. So music was the form to ease the spirit. And here it is, you had to be good for people to actually feel it, right? So when they felt it, people danced, women grabbed tamarines, and here it is, they sang songs, said wording of song, And here it is. They said the things that were taught to them. Now, in verse 6 of that same chapter 25, when we look at 1 Chronicles 25, verse 6, he says, all these, whether of Asphalt, Jeduthun, or Heman, were under their fathers or their earth parents' direction in the singing in the house of the Almighty. So they wasn't just in there defiling the place, saying whatever they wanted to say. They were saying things that was righteous coming from their heart, right? And here it is. It says the house of the Almighty to the accompaniment of, here it is, cymbals, harps, and lyres, servings in the house of Yahuah. Now, remember, we said the tabernacle, and we mentioned the tent. They all were singing and also creating music as well, under the guidance of the king. Now, here's some logic. Now I'm going to try and break down what we just reviewed up top. Maybe the wisdom will show you the missed part. Because from the context of each of these accounts, it's now will become apparent that Ethan and Jeduthun are referring or referencing to the same person or individual, with the earlier parts listening to him as Ethan. So here it is. In the later scriptures accounts referenced as Jeduthun, right? But we know we're talking about the same person. Ethan is Jeduthun. And I will tell you, my brothers and sisters, back then, this was a common practice in Hebrew biblical personalities. We have seen the wording the lineage is often included, right? For clarification. So by the knowledge of Yahweh or Yahuah is interfering or interesting that the lineage of Ethan is included in 1 Chronicles chapter 6. When we was there, did you see that? Now, when you look at chapter 6, everyone, pay close attention to verse 29. Because what we're doing a history of Jeduthun. And here it is. You're finding out about a man that you never knew had some relationship to David. And here it is, had a lot to do with David and also many other men, which is Heman, and as we see, Ashford. And now when you see here in chapter 6, verse 29, you go back to Merarites stood at the left of Ethan. The Merarites stood at the left of Ethan. Thank you, Father. So now as we see here in 1 Chronicles 15, go now here. Look at verse 17, everyone. Therefore, it says, the Levites appointed Heman, son of Joel, and among his brothers Ashford, son of Bereshai, and among the sons of Merari, their brothers Ethan, it says, their brothers Ethan, the Cushites. You see that? Cushites. So now, don't you see this coming into form? So now here it is. The Cushites were who? The Egyptians. Right? So now here it is. You're seeing a relationship that was a relationship before everyone got everything all out of order. But here it is. We are starting with music and how music was basically helping the spirit of the people at the time of David when he was a shepherd boy. Right? Because we just saw it. And now we have tied together Joel, Heman, and many other cousins of Jesse and David. Wow. So now that's why I'm teaching this way. My father is teaching this way as I'm obedient, because he wants you to do the reading and research more on. But we're not done yet. But he wants you to see everybody knew everybody, right? And here it is. They had a strong relationship to music. We even mentioned Zechariah. Okay. So now here it is. We can see how the name carried on, right? From ancestor to ancestors. And now we see that all of us really, we love music. And now we see Cushites had also a hand into playing this music, right? And now here it is in verse 29, right? This is where we're at. I hope I ain't lost my place because I just got so excited. So now here it is in 6:29 and down in 17, First Chronicles, chapter 15, as we see here, therefore the Levites appointed Heman, son of Joel, and among his brothers, Ash, son of Barashayan, Barashayan, I'm so sorry, Shalat, and among the sons of Merah, brothers, Ethan of Cush. Wow. So now, my brothers and sisters, this was becoming clear by the knowledge of understanding, right? That the lineage of Jeduthun, who is Ethan, is not mentioned. And the fact is that Jeduthun does not have his father lineage listed in any of the accounts. Wow. Everybody else did except Ethan or Jeduthun, which will indicate that the name Jeduthun was a nickname, just like we use today. We use nicknames, right? So now what is coming clear is that this generation and every generation have copied each other throughout the generations and have used subtitles of some sort in place of the formal name, as we see with Ethan, because they called him Jeduthun. So now this is proof of what I have shown you so far, my brothers and sisters. Also, what you have read and saw in the Hebrew scriptures, which you've seen 3 directors, right, of the Levites holding musical assemblies were by name, write them down, everyone, Heman, Heman, as lead singer, Ashaph, Asaph, he was the choir, here it is, or the choir director, Jeduthun, aka, which his name is Ethan, was a musical director. So I hope y'all writing this down, because this is going to help you to understand why we love music, why we create music. And here it is, why do our people listen to music still today? Because here it is a feeling that you get from it, an energy. But here it is, what we're teaching today. Do you understand that most music today is wicked, evil? No one is talking about Yah. No one is addressing the scriptures in the music. No one is standing up to be accounted for as a real artist as they were. Because here it is, people are signing their lives away. As you can see, many artists have said, I have signed my life away. But see, here, they were enjoying life. And here it is, they became skilled at their craft, because here it is, Yah, my father, had blessed them so. As we know now, that the name Jeduthun and Ethan is the same person. Brothers and sisters, by research, I have found that both names are both a descendant from the family of Merah. And now that here it is, that why I show you that the proof is in First Chronicles 6:29, as we just seen right here. And then we also seen in First Chronicles 15, verse 17, what we just read, as we see with the pieces of the puzzles in place. You now see, my brothers and sisters, your first possible link between David and Jeduthun, who is Ethan. As the Most High shows from the scriptural text, we understand that the Levite families of Merah were allotted cities from the family of Zebulun. So now here it is. You know the tribe now that they were tied to. Zebulun. Okay? And now we don't understand that the Cushites were also musicians. Right? And then, which means as part of their inheritance and their position as support personnel in the relationships to the tabernacle. So now you see why they were also blowing the Sephira and singing and dancing and having fun. And here it is, people were getting a feeling of spiritual life blessings upon them by enjoying a good time around Father Yah, celebrating, right? My brothers and sisters, think about it. One of those cities was Bethlehem. Write that down. So we got Zebulun tied back as a nation of people who were at this time with David, who was cousins as well. And we see the city of Bethlehem. And so as we look at the proof in the matter of the book of Joshua, this will take us to Bethlehem, because here it is when we go to the book of Joshua. Watch this. It's a lot to explain, but we're getting there, brothers and sisters. So now here it is in Joshua chapter 19. What do we see, everybody? In verse 10 through 16. We see what? Zebulun. So now the third lot fell to the Zebulunites, to their clan. The boundaries of their heritage was Sarid. Their boundaries went up west. Now, wasn't Hamites from the west? And through Merib, reaching Dabashah, and the water, that is Jakim, from Sarid eastward, it ran to the district of, I think that is Chasalak, on, they got a lot of names in here that's been twisted, on the Berat and up to Jaffa. And then as we see, as we continue here, it goes on to explain all of the cities and towns that was nearby of the people who were the Cushites in Zebulun, all together. So now here it is, as we continue. This, in verse 16, this was the heritage of the Zebulunites by their clans, these cities and their villages. So now you can see what I just said earlier. They all was around each other. They knew each other. They grew up with each other, right? So now you can understand David, how, here it is, Jesse, here it is, his dad, and therefore David was a shepherd boy and also was a harpist player, but was around and hung out with musicians who compose music to give the feeling, and here is the praise to Yahuah, to allow them to know how well they feel, okay? So now here it is, music became the background for us. That's why we love music, right? So now also, as we see in verse 21, verse 7, now you can see about the Levites, because we're talking about, here it is, history of Jeduthun, who is really Ethan. And now here it is a relationship to David, but it's also allowing us to see how close everyone was, just like we are today. We are all brothers and sisters. Many of us just don't know it, because the world have took you out of play. Your tune is not tuned. So here it is. We here at IVI is bringing you under the more impressions of your Bible, so you can feel the music that is playing today, because here it is. David is the one, here it is, that sharpened his skills. And here it is. The people that was around David also loved to hear him play. Now realize, verse 21, verse 7, from the tribes of Zebulun and Gad, here go more cousins. Wow. All just because the history of Jeduthun. So now here it is. We see Reuben and Gad and Zebulun, the clans of the Merarites, obtained 12 cities. They obtained 12 cities. Wow. Didn't know that. So now realize here, and up top we see Ephraim in verse 5. From the clans of the tribe of Ephraim, from the tribe of Dan, and from the half tribe of Manasseh, the rest of the Kohathites, obtained by lot 10 cities. And then it says in verse 6, from the clans of the tribe of Issachar, from the tribe of Asher, from the tribe of Naphtali, and from the half tribe of Manasseh, the Gershonites obtained by lot 13 cities. From the tribe of Reuben, Gad, Zebulun, the clans of the Merarites obtained 12 what? Cities. So these are blessings, everybody. That's right. Music was blessing the land. Everybody felt good. Everybody knew each other. Everybody sung together, played together. Right? Which means, my brothers and sisters, that David and Jeduthun, aka Ethan, here it is, may have lived near each other or in the same city or town of Bethlehem. That's why I mentioned this earlier. Write down Bethlehem, because these are villages and towns. Now you can understand why Yeshua, here it is, was walking all around Israel, northern parts. Naphtali, Issachar, Zebulun, all northern. Okay? Abraham came out of the north of Babylon, right? So now we got to realize how close we are to each other. So let me give you some proof notes to take down for your later use of others to share. I will place them all in the correct order as the Spirit of truth teach me. That's right, my Father Yahuah. See, I take notes. Just like John, he foresee, I do the same thing. We all got different talents. So yes, I take my logic notes to bring forth to you, to share with you, to allow you to know what my Father have shown me in vision, to therefore place me into this to show you, to be obedient. So now here it is, the wisdom of knowledge and the blessed understanding of Jeduthun, here it is, was from the Levite family of Merari. Bethlehem was one of the territories assigned to Merari, which is the Levites. Now understand, David was from Bethlehem, right? David and Jeduthun, who is Ethan, had both lived in Bethlehem. These musical directors, along with Heman and Ashford and Ethan, or Jeduthun, which one you would like to use, as one of the heavyweight string players who was serving as the musical director, here it is, over the Levites at that time. That's right. 1 second. This is going to allow you to see how and why David was such a great artist and a great king for the people. Because here it is, music, as we have said, soothes the spirit. And here it is, it gives blessing and praise to Father when you singing to him. So now here it is, we see down who was serving as the musical directors over the Levites at that time and was no doubt one of the teachers. We see that proof here in 1 Chronicles 25, right? Let's go back there because we're going to be flipping back and forth. First Chronicles 25, 1 through 8 proves this because we just seen that he says gatekeeper. Now, a gatekeeper is someone that makes sure they hold things down, right? That means they are very stern, and here it is. They're going to make sure things are going to be right, and they're going to make sure everything is tight, right? So now when we see, as for the division of gatekeepers, the Korathites, the Mishilites, and the Korah, one of the sons, and then as we see Elam in verse 3, Jeduthun, and then the sixth, the seventh, Obadiah, and then we see Shema, the firstborn, the second son, and then we see Sakar, the fourth, Nathan, and the fifth, Amalek, and the sixth is Issachar, and the seventh, Pula, and the eighth, for Yahuah blessed him, right? Verse 6, to his son Shemet were born sons who ruled over their family, for they were warriors. The sons of Shemet were, who is that? Raphael, Obed, also his kinsmen who were men of substance. And then we see in verse 8, all these were the sons of Obed Edom, who were together with their sons and their kinsmen, were men of substance fit for the service. Obed Edom, 62. So now it's just giving an account of how many. Now understand, my brothers and sisters, that Jeduthun is also one of the few individuals who had two of the Psalms manuscripts written specifically to be performed as the scriptures say, over him in the book of Psalm 62. So when we see Psalm 62, we know that Solomon didn't write that. We know David didn't write that, but we know that therefore it was an instructor that therefore written it. And here it is, we see it in Psalm 62, which was Ethan. See, a lot of people think Solomon and David wrote all of Psalms, and they don't understand that here it is. This man who's coming forth with that you are learning about today had a lot to do with the musical background of those who were playing any instruments. So now look here in Psalm 62. Let's go there. And here it is. This is going to be actually 1 through 13. Watch this, y'all. It says, the spirit rests in Yahuah alone, from whom comes my salvation. Yahuah alone is my, here it is, refuge, my rock and salvation, my fortress. I shall never fall. Verse 4, how long will you set yourself against man? You shall all be destroyed, like a sagging wall or a tumbled down fence. Even highly placed people plot to overthrow him. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. Verse 6, the spirit be at rest in Yahuah Yahweh alone, from whom comes my hope. Yahuah alone is my refuge and my salvation, my fortress. I shall not what? Fall. My deliverance and honor are with Yahuah, my strong rock. My refuge is with Yahuah. Trust Yahuah at all times, my people. Pour out your hearts to Yahuah. Verse 10, mortals are mere spirits, the sons of man, but an illusion. On a balance they raise together, they weigh together. Do not trust in exaltations, in plunder. Put no empty hope on wealth that increases, right? Do not set your heart. One thing Yah has said, two things I have heard. Strength belongs to Yahuah, to my Almighty does mercy. For you repay each mortal according to his what? Deeds. So which means trust in the Almighty, everybody. Yahuah, and he also wrote the Psalms of 77. So now you'll find out who wrote what. Now here it is in verse 77 of Psalms. This is all Ethan, because his nickname was Jeduthun. And now we see that in verse 77, 1 through 21. Watch what he writes. He says, I cry aloud to Yahuwah. I cry to Yahuwah to hear me. On the day of my distress, I seek the Almighty Yah. By night, my hands are stretched out unceasingly. I refuse to be consoled. When I think of Yahuwah, here it is, as I meditate, my spirit grows faint. You have kept me from closing my eyes in sleep. I am troubled and cannot what? Speak. I consider the day of old, the years long past. Verse 7. I remember at night, I ponder in my heart, he says, and as I meditate, my spirit probes. Will the Almighty reject us forever? Never again show favor. Verse 9, has Yahuwah mercy ceased forever? The promise to go unfulfilled for future ages. Has Yahuwah forgotten how to show mercy? In anger withheld? Has anger withheld his compassion? I conclude my sorrow was this. Now realize this is Ethan writings. He composed this. So understand why B.B. Winan, most of her whole album was written in Psalms. She took Psalms and made the songs and made an album. Now realize the right hand of the Most High has abandoned us. Verse 12. I will recall the deeds of the Almighty Yahweh. Yes, recall your wonders of old. I will ponder all your works. On your exploits, I will meditate. Your way, Yahuwah, is set apart. You see this, everyone? So what Yahuwah is, as great as our Yahuwah is, you are the Yahuwah who does wonders among the peoples. You have revealed your might. With your mighty arm, you redeem your people, the people of Jacob. Now, you know, Jacob became Israel. Israel are Israelites. And now Judah. And then he says, Joseph. And then he says, verse 17, the water saw you, Yahuwah. The water saw you and lashed out about. Even the deeps of the sea trembled. The clouds poured down their rains. The thunderheads rumbled. Your arrows flashed back and forth. Verse 19, the thunder of your chariot wheels resounded. Your lightning lifted up the world. Now realize this is all talking about giving praise to Yahuwah, my Father, for the creation of everything and the blessing upon everything, right? So now he says, your lightning lift up the world. The earth trembles and quakes. Verse 20, through the sea was your way, your path through the mighty waters. Through your footsteps were unseen. You led your people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Now, we just had a study on that, I think, last week from Genesis to Exodus. So now we see in here by the hand of Moses and Aaron. We see Jeduthun giving also praise to Moses and them, who also kept the concept of singing and dance. As we know, when Moses went up on Mount Sinai, the people down of the hill was partying and having a good time. That means they were singing and dancing and praising a deity of a false god, right? Y'all remember that. So now you can see how this relationship of cousinship was close. Everyone knew everyone. Everyone knew what everyone was doing and why everyone was doing what they were doing. Because either it was good or either it was bad. So now here it is, which now allow you all with better knowledge to understand that David didn't write all of the book of Psalms, like I just said. But now you know it was written by Jeduthun, Ashford, and David and Heman, and the Korhites. So now Cushites. And my brothers and sisters, we also know Jeduthun also wrote Psalms 39, which I'm going to take you there so we can read and review it. Let's go to Psalms 39. And I hope everyone is writing this down, because here it is. You're going to need this to understand why music is valued today. And here it is in the wrong way, different than it was valued in the day of David, in the time of our ancestors, how they played music, how they enjoyed music, And here it is, how they celebrated with their family, their children. Here it is, and their wives. And here it is, their households. Because here now, as we read here it is, this is the vanity of life. That's right. Because here it is, when we read 1 through 7, I said, I will watch my ways. Turn this down. The devil love to bug me. Yeah, he do. I turned this off, and he is still sending signals to my phone. So now, as we see here in 39, he says 1 through 7, I said, I will watch my ways. Let not I sin with my tongue. Didn't I just say that? We got many artists out here today that are sinning with their tongues. They're not giving praise to Father Yah. They're not keeping the name. They're not keeping the commandments. They're not following the covenant of the law. They're not fighting for their lives to save the children, the wives, their friends, associates, the co-workers. Okay? Because here it is. He says, let not sin with my tongue. I will keep a muzzle on my mouth, mute in silence before the wicked. I refrain from good things, but my sorrow increases. See, if you say nothing, you do nothing, right? My heart smothers within me. In my sighting, a fire blazes up, and I break into speech. You see this? So now here it is. This is the writing of artists. When you hear the music, it is a feeling coming from the heart. It is allowing you to see what is coming from the inside out, right? So now he says here, verse 5, Almighty, let me know my end, the number of my days, that I may learn how frail I am. To be sure, you establish the span of my days. Indeed, my life is as nothing before you. Every man is but a breath. Verse 7, man goes about as a mere phantom. The hurry about, although in vain. He heaps up stores without knowing for whom. See this? People are chasing wealth in music today, but not knowing that Yah blessed us to put forth good songs, to put forth good written poems, to inspire others, to uplift them, to give them feelings of heart. So when we go into Hallmark and we go buy a card for someone that is sick, you're looking for the conditions of detail, right? To make sure you actually put in there as much as you can for what you feel in your heart for them to get better, right? And then you sign the card, right? And then here it is, if there's others around, you make sure that they sign the card and jot down a little something in there for the person that is to receive. So now this is composing, because here it is, now you're putting your signature on the poem, which what you feel. You are basically verifying it, right? So now we're seeing David wrote Psalms 39 also with Jeduthun, because when we get to verse 8 and then therefore to 14, you see this. David, that's David's part. Jeduthun wrote the beginning, and then David, you know how people say, let's do a collaboration. So this is what happened. Ethan, who is Jeduthun, and who was working with Heman and Asheville, they also, here it is, together did, what's this? Doing a collaboration. And now David part start at 8 through 14. And the same was done in Psalm 61. Let's go to 61. Psalm 61. I hope y'all writing down all of these great precepts. Because here in 61, 1 through 9, it clearly tells us, watch this, hear my cry, O Yahuah. Listen to my prayer, right? From the ends of the earth I call, my heart grows faint. Raise me up, set me on a righteous rock. For you are my refuge, a tower of strength against my foe. Let me dwell in your tent forever. Take refuge in the shelter of your what? Wings. Verse 6, for you, O Yahuah, have heard my vow. You have granted me the heritage, those who reverse your name. Here it is, or praise your name. Add days to the life of the king. May his years be as from generation to generation. May he reign before Yahuah forever. Send your love and fidelity, that means joy and happiness, to preserve him. I will sing to your name forever. Fulfill my vows day after day. Now we see here, many people are not even knowing what the Father's name. And here it is, they're, even if they don't know the name, they are not even saying Mighty Father. If you don't want to use any other name, you can say Almighty Father. That would be okay. And here it is, because you are directing it to the Almighty Father, my Father, and your Father. And now as we see here in verse 9, oh no, let's continue. I'll stop at 6. So now here it is. He says in verse 6, my spirit be at rest in Yahuah alone. Right? No. Yep. From whom comes my hope? And then he says, Yahuah, verse 7, alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, I shall not fall. My deliverance and my honor are with Yahuah. My strong rock, my refuge is with Yahuah. Trust Yahuah at all times, my people. Pour out your hearts to Yahuah, who is your refuge. Now, which was for the conduct over the music. So now you see, this was about the conduct of the music. Not like it is today. It done went straight to hell. Because now you got so many artists preaching for the devil in their music. And here it is. They are not understanding that here it is. You've been given a talent, brother, sister, to do or to compose and put together something for a feeling. But here it is. Are you doing it for the feeling of righteousness, or are you doing it for the feeling to deceive and to lead those to hell with you? So now we're seeing that here it is. Children have to stop listening and watching these videos of these people out here. They're basically trying to get you in a cult out of your mind, celebrating what they're saying, which is from the devil, and having you praise that music. So you have to watch what they're saying. You cannot listen to everything. You cannot watch everything, right? Which was for the conduct over the music for David as the text was performed, over by composing order by David. So David composed as well, which means set in order by the specific individual, as we know was Ethan or Jedediah. My brothers and sisters, this was also common practice even today. This is logic. Where a composer or a song is written with a particular singer or instrumentalist or accomplice who join into a composition or a song, right? Now, we just showed that. David part started from 8 through 14, right, in Psalm 61, which is written with a particular singer in mind. So now we see that what they composed, what Ethan composed, was basically telling the Father how he felt. And it was to no one else. David did the same thing, wrote to what he felt. He asked in prayer. He also wrote in prayer to show the people how he felt. Because if you keep it in, how people going to know how you feel? So music has been the instrument that now the devil has been using against Israelites, turning them into demonic artists instead of righteous artists. But what, my brothers and sisters, that we see, this story gets even better, right? As I include also the sons of Jedediah, who I find who was the original sixth lyre player, as one of Matthidus, also as proof in First Chronicles, as we seen, and 25, chapter 25, verse 3. And the order is in the following: Gedaliah, Zara, Jashara, Simara, Hashabin, Matadis, and we see all six. As we have linked David to Jedediah, and now who is Ethan, right? To his sons who were all under the direction of their father. And here it is by the name or nickname Jedediah, as we see in 1 Chronicles 25, 1 through 31. As the last piece of this puzzle, my brothers and sisters, will have to go back to when the transport of the ark, as we read, right, to the city of David, which was initially attempted by David, right? He was trying to get the ark there, and they were singing. And when you sing, that's a frequency, right? And his troops, who found, and here it is, that the attempt to move the ark to the city of David by his troops failed. We know that. Which David relocated the ark temporarily to his house, Obed-Edom. So we see Obed-Edom, which is in Gath. That's right. So now, for 3 months, my brothers and sisters, you can see this proof book of 2 Samuel. Now let's go to 2 Samuel. Yeah, we're going to spend a little time reading, because here it is. Most of our brothers and sisters don't read, and they don't want to know, how did we get to this talent? And most of our sisters write poems as well as most of our brothers, and make music as well. Might be just instrumental, making beats. But here it is. We're seeing that this started from David out of Jesse, and who are all the people that was involved that helped this music grow and grow and grow and grow until we get to this generation of music now. Now look here in 2 Samuel chapter 6. Get some little water here. I need to leave this top off. Now here in 2 Samuel 10 through 12, what we see here is this attempt. Now, when it was reported to King David that the Almighty had blessed the household of Obed-Edom and all that he possessed because of the ark of Yahweh, David went to bring up the ark of Yahweh from the house of Obed-Edom into the city of David with joy. Now understand, we see here in verse 10 through 12, proof of this, right? And now we see, so David was unwilling, verse 10, to take the ark of the Almighty Yahweh with him into the city of David. David deposited instead at the house of Obed-Edom, right? You see that. And also in the scripture of 1 Chronicles chapter 13. Watch this. See, this is proof that this man history is the history that led us all into the fruitfulness of the music. And here it is. The music soothes the spirit. And here it is. Our people enjoy playing this music, right? So now go to 1 Chronicles chapter 13. And look at verse 14. The ark of Yahuah remained in the house. Right there. It never made it to the city of David. The ark of Yahuah remained in the house of Obed-Edom with his family. See that? These are cousins, man. Brothers and sisters who enjoyed music, who enjoyed singing around the ark of the covenant. Because here it is. This was covenantal by Moses as well. And then he says here, family for 3 months And the Almighty Yahuah blessed Obed-Edom household and all that he will possess. They sung praise just to have that in their presence. Do you understand that? Because here it is. When you have something special around you, you do not want it to be lost or damaged, right? Because here it is, you know that how you came about to have that precious thing, right? Because here it is, if you receive something precious, here it is, it was because Yahweh gave it to you. And he put it in your midst, just as this Ark of the Covenant. Now realize, also by my research, Gath was also one of the cities of Zebulun that had been assigned to the Levi families of Merah, as their elements of wisdom is backed by the tribes of Israelites as proof of Joshua. Going back to their cousins of Joshua of chapter 19, right? Let's go there. Joshua chapter 19. And when we get here, look at verse 10 through 16. He clearly shows us again where we was at Zebulun. The third fell to the lot of Zebulunites by their clans. Did y'all write that down? And then we read all who were included in the clan. And here it is. It went eastward to Gad, as we see in verse 13. So there it continued eastward, okay, to Gad, east to west, east to west. And here's this Gad helper. So, and then as we see here, Rimmon turned to Neath, skirting north to Hathanon. The boundary ended at the valley of Italy. And then we see Bethlehem in verse 15. There was the 12 cities and their villages again. So now here it is. This is clear. Everybody enjoyed the creation of music. And here it is, enjoying hearing David and many of these artists play music. And it spread it east to west. Okay? And understand me, it also was in the northern parts. Naphtali, Issachar. Okay? So now here it is, music. And this creation of music was all around Israel. So now we realize that here it is 3 months, and then we see here in 1 Chronicles 13, 14, also by my research, Gad and Zebulun, the Levite family as well, and now reading in Joshua 19, 10 through 16. As you see, one of the cities was Bethlehem. Now also look at the scriptures again for the Levite proofs of the Israelite ancestors. Also in the book of Joshua 21. And then here it is, verse 7. Clear information, because it's saying from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, Zebulun, the clans of the Merarites obtained 12 cities. 12. It confirms the Levitical cities of Ethan, who is Jeduthun, and their clans and cities, right? So now, my brothers and sisters, you may have asked, why did David trust the ark will be properly secured at the house of Obed-Edom? The full answer is that he had been, here it is, close to Obed-Edom as cousins, as we done proved. And here it is, was the same Obed-Edom that was the lyre player that we read, right? And here it is. And yes, my brothers and sisters, in the book of 1 Chronicles 16:5, right? Let's go there. So I cannot close without going there, right? And now here it is, 16:5. Asaphat was the chief. The second to him was Zechariah. And here is Uzziah, Shammah, and as you see all the name Matthias, we've been here, right? And now we see in this proof shows also the son of Ethan. And in 1 Chronicles 16:38, let's look at that. Verse 38, 1 Chronicles 16, verse 38. He also left there Obed-Edom and 68 of his brothers, including Obed-Edom, son. There you go. Remember it said didn't have no lineage, but now we are showing you that Ethan had a lineage. Obed-Edom, son of Jeduthun, and Hosea to be gatekeepers. You see that? Which was Joshua. Okay? So now let's also get to another logic point. A brighter path to this wisdom for full understanding for you, right? Gad was also one of the territories assigned to the Merarite Levites. David relocated the ark temporarily, okay, to the house of Obed-Edom in Gad, right? Obed-Edom was a son of Jedediah, who was Ethan, Salah, and also a lyra player. Obed-Edom of Gad was also the son of Ethan, as we just proved. So now you might be saying, here's some logic. It's okay that all makes sense now about Edom, Jeduthun was in his role as a Hebrew Israelite. And then also we see the history told, which was the biblical text from the information I have shown in the book of the scriptures. You now see, brothers and sisters, the greatest possible fact-proof scenario, which tell you now David learned his art as a musician and about his connection to the Levites musical system through this man, as it reveals the role of Jedediah and that he was a teacher to King David and no doubt one of his prized students, as this was an interconnection relationship between the Levite singer and musicians, as we see Jeduthun and David is further emphasized when we see that the Levite Heman and the lead singer was also the grandson of Samuel. That's right, the prophet. Here it is, my brothers and sisters. Now you understand why we love music and the creation of it, as I just stated, as it comes from the ancestors' background story now revealed to you in a blessed lesson brought to you by your brother Yahuah Yahweh, and by the wisdom to his written within that's called by the set apart spirit. Please teach this, my brothers and sisters, as you are called by Yahweh to help to continue to grow with more knowledge of the record of the understanding. So please be in peace and love, and remember to humble yourselves at all time, even if you have to use music to do it. So Yahweh, as he is the light that allows us to be seen by our Almighty Father, I hope today's lesson stay locked until your being forever. And here it is. I sent out my shalom, shalom. Till we meet again, I am your brother, Yisrael Yahweh.